Hello, welcome to Staring Down the Storm, Autism Advocacy in America. I'm your host, Tabitha Ziegler. Okay, everybody, welcome back. We have TK and KT. I see that you are wearing matching outfits here today.
we do like to match.
Yeah. Well, and you were just telling me that you guys have a sticker and a Facebook page.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
This is my favorite mug and my favorite sticker, KTTK Love. That's our DJ name, but that's also what we go by as a unified
force. A unified force. I like that.
Yeah, that was good. That was good co-creation in the moment.
It was the Yoda, you know?
Yes.
Yoda.
Yes, of course. Well, we brought Yoda to bring a little extra power to our conversation.
Beautiful.
So, unified force.
Yes. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what you do, because I think a lot of people don't have the stomach to do what you do. Let's just start there. You guys do heavy work. So how would you like to start speaking about what you do? Or do you want to just start from the top, with the title?
You want to release some of that heaviness and bring it into...
Well, I guess the way I would answer that is reflecting on a way I used to think about individuals with intellectual disabilities that I served through as an IT director for Special Olympics Utah, and then as an IT director of a company called Chrysalis in Utah, where I one day heard myself saying something that I said many, many times, and was just suddenly aware of what I was doing to myself. I would tell people in praise and gratitude, the people who were working in the homes with the individuals, thank you so much for what you're doing. It takes someone really special, and I couldn't do that. I'm glad I have the job I do to take care of IT, because I couldn't do that. And that's when I realized in my growth and my evolution, wait a minute, to take care of that, isn't that just being human? And I had separated myself in whatever still existed in bias and othering that created this okay for me and okay for everyone else to excuse myself from being able to take care of people in a situation where they need help. And that's one of the awakening points for me, and realizing how much was I doing that in other places. And for what we're speaking to in terms of the people that we're now called to care for is our unhoused neighbors. And they exist in every religion, every nationality, every race, every language. They represent all of us. And there is no separation, even though we've been taught there's quite a separation. So I think that the stomach, that's maybe another opportunity for us all to witness ourselves. How much are we separating ourselves from this work that we think we can't do? When it's truly just accepting each other for the human beings that we are. And it starts with accepting ourselves. So that's how I'd answer that. Kind of went all the way, not all the way back.
No, but I think that's good though, because actually I don't know how much you guys have read about me on all the spaces, but how I kind of introduce myself as a humanist first. And so I think that's really powerful what you said, because it is true. I think those of us that have come across some sort of adversity, it sort of transforms us. And those that feel called to reach back and help other people in various ways, I think the more work you do, the more you find that there is this core of all of us that is very similar. I've actually been leading a lot lately by telling people, because there's a lot of controversy out there right now. There's a lot of hateful things happening. And so I always lead with, humans, all of us, are 99.9% related in DNA. So there's really 0.1% of all the humans in the world that makes us different. And I think that's a really strong focal point to bring people back to their humanity. Because so frequently there are people out there that like to drive wedges in between groups. And they have their reasons. But I think a lot of people that do the type of work that we're doing can see through that. So I think that was a really important point that you made.
Yeah, and I think it's a key point in showing up to serve individuals who are very sensitive to energy and perception. In many ways, what we show up with, they will reflect to us. If we show up in fear and fear of violence, that is a possibility. And we show up in love and I'm here to serve, that's what they receive. So they're very much in tune with the way that individuals or communities or systems show up for them. They've been let down enough to be able to sense, just like any living creature. They're not having it, and that's perfect, because that's them taking control, and that's what is needed for all of us. We need to decide and get to decide what is right for us, and for that to be dictated by any person or group or religion or any system, government, it's not for them to decide, it's for each of us. Sovereignty is key.
I think it's interesting that you guys use the word sovereignty in your mission statement, because it's a very powerful word. Would you guys like to tell me a little bit more about your origin story and how all of this evolved?
I will add to what he shared already, but to your question, I think when we talk about humanity, that 0.9% you talked about is important. When we really understand ourselves first, and we understand the things we've been through or we've experienced generationally in our families or upbringings, I think sovereignty has got lost over time. We have been, as we know, we have been conditioned and given a narrative, and to some degree from religion or from a family, this is what this generation and blah 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 before has done. Those narratives have just continued to pass on. This isn't a qualm, this isn't a point of finger or shame or blame, right or wrong. It's the fact that sovereignty is just not, as you said, as a common conversation piece right now. More and more people are understanding, I think, to what that means, to TK's point, for them individually. And then more and more of us are coming together to say, hey, we are all one, we're all humans. And, we may not agree 100%, but that's okay. I can still unconditionally love you, and I can still respect myself and stand in my boundaries, because that's mine. And so sovereignty, I think, it is a more conversational piece that's happening, but for us, it's the root of what we've developed through our work and Allies for Humanity. Our team members, we all understand that we just meet people where they're at. We love them unconditionally, and they're sovereign beings. And, to your original stomach question, it's being able to stand in your own sovereignty and your truth while realizing that the people that we're serving don't have many and haven't had many opportunities to even figure out what that means for them individually. Because system after system has try to teach them what it should mean. And so Allies for Humanity kind of comes in with an intentional disruption or interruption to that flow process to say, hey, no, I see you, I hear you, and you do matter. And whatever you're going through right now matters. And I'm not here to fix you or fix it, but we're here to support you when and if you're ready. So, and I think for me personally, getting more into a personal origin of that, I found out when I was like 11 or 12 that I was adopted. Grew up in a great family, had a great childhood, all those things. But my whole life kind of went upside down when I got that news. And my intuition started kicking in strong. And so I was having visions and things happening of what I would have come to find out as a mid-20-year-old adult were true. I was having these premonitions and these visions to my family, my biological family. And it wasn't until I was mid-20s that I learned that those things were true. And so for me, sovereignty is even deeper because I come from Native American Cherokee lineage. I've been able to track at least 6 generations back, but never have I been taught the way of that. And so I've navigated intuition and gifts and abilities on my own, but with the help of spirit. And that is a huge part of what I bring to Allies for Humanity and the work that I do. So it's even deeper for me because it was literally taken away from me, like many of my ancestors. And so the climate of today kind of put salt to that wound a little bit on a spiritual level. But as TK already said, we see every human being from every walk of life. So there's no separation in that sovereignty for me. So
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because, I've shared with you off camera that, I never lead with this because my family, we did not have any, tribal sovereignty or anything like that. That was something that I was told. And I was raised in the church, but there was always that part that, my brother and I, there's just the two of us. And we've always had this conversation of, having like an extreme natural attachment to the land. And there just always seemed like there was more. And I was always that kid in church that I questioned everything, especially if it didn't make sense to me. And now I have children of my own. And I think that there's a resurgence of older matrilineal type cultures that maybe because of all the turmoil and the controversy and the war and the hate, that it is driving something that is very primal in us, or maybe especially in the women, especially with a lot of hatred right now towards women. I personally feel there's a very maybe deeper vibration going on. And there seems to be this strong drive for renatriation. And I agree with you, I guess is my point, is I feel like there's something bigger going on. There's something that people are tapping into, not just for the women, I'm hearing it more in men too. I very much believe in the 7th generation, and supposedly that time is now. So I think it's really powerful what you're doing, and I think it's sort of the movement of the future of maybe digging back into a past that we've forgotten that actually unites us more than it separates us. I know we're going heavy on this, aren't we? I'm here for it though.
It's interesting and we are too. Thank you so much for hosting this awesome opportunity for people to share their truths, and it's important. I think one of the biggest things we do for individuals is as witness them. We are witness. We can see somebody receive them for who they are now, outside of a judgment system. And I heard you say you grew up in the church, and maybe you didn't say it exactly that way. You were part of the church. What stood out to me is the church, and it was interesting because that was what we all say in Utah, where I'm from, and the church doesn't mean anything but the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in the context of Utah.
Right.
But I'm not sure you're from Utah, so my guess is you weren't referring to that church.
No, but I think that's a very interesting point, right? Because whether it's Utah or Indiana or wherever, I mean, it could be Thailand.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about organized religion, there is this push, or when you're raised in it, of there's nothing but this.
Yeah.
And as you get older, and as you come across different types of people and learn new things, when your mind expands, it seems like there comes a point sometimes for people where the church will say, you can't have both.
Yeah.
Or it can't all be encompassing. I would actually disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because I feel, and that's why I jump back to the 99%. Because I feel like in most organized religions, there is some root that is similar. And I've always found it interesting, and that's why I say I was that kid. Because when people tell people things, especially young children, they should encourage them to question things. Indoctrination doesn't really benefit anyone, but a varied and diverse population that has many gifts to offer, I think it actually further enriches things. So when I see people purposely dividing others as the other, you're a part of something that is not, or you're a part of something that is bad, they're actually limiting that people or that person. And I've never, ever in all my travels seen that be beneficial. It always seems to be either hateful or hurt people. I've never seen it bring people together.
Right.
And I think the older that I've gotten, I've really dug into that, especially now that I have children, because some of the damage that was done by religion, I don't want to do that to my children.
Yeah. And that's why that stood out to me, because regardless of the church, the original story is how I refer to it. The story that we received in religion and in culture, everything that we consumed created this pattern that we only recognized as truth. And in that, there are absolute truths within that story, those stories, all of them. What surfaces is unconditional love from all of them. And unconditional love doesn't hold somebody in judgment. It loves them.
Right.
And that's that looking and being in the presence of someone who has been judged for many, many, many things, and who likely is judging themselves. And when they can have a behavior or a mental moment, is that how you refer to it? It's a moment when they can be authentic. It may be in trauma, but it's true for them, and not that the other person get into it. Just hold space, truly. That's when healing occurs. And that's what's happening in the day program, Allies for Humanity day program. People can come and be, and that's one of the most important things.
I would say there's probably nothing more powerful than that, really stepping into yourself and being your authentic self, but also creating a space where you can do that, like you guys are doing.
Yeah. I had, we don't call them our clients, we call them our neighbors or our guests or our friends. I had a neighbor call yesterday, the day before they came to the day program and they had a moment, like an hour and a half moment.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It was out of character, but it was beautiful to be able to hold space for that individual. And it took me stepping out when I needed an energetic break and my other team lead stepping in, but then another neighbor also supporting their friend, because they're friends outside of coming and seeing each other at the day program. But it was beautiful, even though it was a long moment. That person called me yesterday to thank me and just say how much they were surprised that they were able to just release and let all of that go, and how they don't have space to do that. And because out there, if they were to do that, somebody could call MCAT, call IMPD. Like, there's all kinds of fear things out there in the world that if they were to do that outside of a safe, trusted space, there's consequences.
Yeah.
And that's not how the rest of us work. And so for our neighbors to have all this built up anger, because there was a lot, I call it Hulk or holy anger, like when you get all this anger built up and you have no healthy way to release it, we couldn't do that. But to our neighbors, it's seen differently. And to us, that doesn't make sense. So that person called yesterday just to say thank you and also apologize that they said some off the wall things that, again, out of character. But I just told them, I said, I've been doing this work before I realized I was doing this work. I said, so I appreciate your communication and apology. I said, but please know that you're safe. And that's the most important thing. And they reiterated what we're hearing more and more now is like, this is peaceful, it's safe. And so from a public look in, we may not have numbers or we may not do it the way that other organizations are doing it, but from our neighbors' perspective, safety is in peace. Those are like two of the most important things outside of food and making sure that like you have your necessities, which housing isn't a necessity that we can't provide right now. So if I have food, I have safety, and I have peace, well, like TK said, that's when true healing starts to happen. So that's when these individuals can start breaking down this Hulk facade that they've had to put on out there to protect themselves and to continue to live. Like, it to me, it just blows my mind. But when you take the time to actually witness somebody like TK saying, that's how we get to understand what really is going on inside of their worlds and how we can support them. So not just one particular person. That happened yesterday. And that's a long moment. It was a lot of work. And I told my team I'm thankful because we had a few extra volunteers that day that allowed me and my other team lead to be able to support that individual that long. And then their friend followed them around for the next several hours. So they were able to still decompress. And so that's just an example of why it's important for us. So.
Well, I think that's really interesting. Two things came to mind when you were talking about that. So I run two nonprofits. One I don't speak about a lot because we haven't been doing this activity. I kind of put it on pause because I'm just one person and I'm finding it difficult to do all the things. But I started a coffee hour, and what I thought was really important was to have a safe space where people could come. Because I remember when I was a child, all the adults getting together and having coffee. And people would visit over coffee. And it didn't matter like how much money you had, what you looked like. The effort was always to create a safe space where people can visit. And I think it's a very Indiana thing. I'm sure, other states have it too.
I would agree. I'm a Hoosier born and raised, so I would agree.
So, there might be some terms that might be different. They may do it in other states, but, we always just said visit. And visit basically meant that you could go somewhere for an extended period of time. You could bring your children. If you had something to bring with you, great. That's a nice thing to do. But if you don't, there was not an expectation to do that. But it was a safe space where people knew they could go. And there would always be coffee or a beverage, right? And so as I was growing up, watching the older women in my family do this sort of thing, it stuck with me. And the older and older I got in different scenarios, I found comfort in taking loose breaks with coffee. So that's how this nonprofit got started, because I was trying to recreate that because I saw a need for people. So there was one thing that came to mind. And the separate thing was I have children with autism. And my older son has self-interest behavior. So having those big outbursts, those Hulk moments, I see a lot of that. And I think maybe parents that have kids that have special needs that way, especially ones that can't speak or their language is limited, it would make sense that they would have explosive reactions to things because other people don't understand the benefits they have of language, right? So when there's a communication barrier, or if there is something that may be prohibiting you from communicating in the way that you feel others need you to, that's very frustrating. And I can see that in my children. And then through deeper reflection, I could see it in myself, like, because I'm also autistic. And I didn't learn this until way later. So I'm in that group of people now that are, they're having kids, and then they're seeing some similarities in their kids, and then they're getting tested. So I didn't even know I had autism until I was 41. So now I'm like, those things make a lot of sense. But as women, we're taught from a very young age to suppress all that. So I'm trying to find inventive ways for my children to be their own authentic selves, to release that energy so that they don't carry it forward and that it hurts them. Because suppressing things like that and not being able to be your authentic self, I've never seen it end in a positive way. So I think that you're on the pulse of something that is very primal and very necessary. We don't have these type of conversations often because so many people and organizations really have been structured in a way that are constantly trying to shove a person in a box. This is what it takes for society. This is what it takes to do the things. And people can do that to a point, but they're often unsuccessful. And I would say even CEOs and things like that, everybody benefits from having that release, because when you don't have that release, it comes out in other ways. It may come out in abuse, maybe you abuse someone else. Maybe you abuse yourself. Maybe you fall into, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, sexual abuse. There's all kinds of negative ways that not dealing with that internal explosion shows us that it's bad. But I think as a society, especially as a Western society, we've not done a good job of having those conversations. And when we talk about the unhoused community, I can see the parallels in the disability community and my own children and myself. But I also, being a humanist, I think it's an easier jump for me to see people. And when I say see people, I mean really see them. Like we're all humans. We all put our pants on the same way. We all deserve to have access to food, clean water, a place to stay, even if it's a hammock. But most importantly, we need those safe spaces.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not going to apologize for my emotion.
No.
It is very emotional for me. But one of our neighbors came in on Monday this week. It is just funny that we scheduled this weeks ago, and all these things are coming around lately, the last week or two. But it's also divine because people are here for it. And a neighbor came in on Monday, again, completely out of character. And like said some things that, again, if you were in public, somebody would call the cops.
Right.
And I've known this individual for 5 months or so, just coming in here and there and seeing them around. And I was like, whoa, okay. Even my other team member was like, why don't you have a seat? Like, let's talk. Come to find out, this individual was successfully in recovery for the last few months. And they used again the night before. And they're a part of a recovery program. And a very loving, open heart program. But sometimes the ego and the heart conflict and fight, and that person chose to come to our program that morning and let it all out.
Yeah.
And in the midst of the conversations, and it was very run through cycles of abuse, run through self-sabotage, run through all these layers of what was internally happening for that person. And the shame of I relapsed and all these judgments, like TK mentioned, like usually it's here first, but we project it out based on or to someone else or from someone else. And so a lot of space holding. But it got to the point where they came at the end of the day. I probably had like an hour and 15 minutes left before we closed. And I was like, look, I'm here for you. I love you. I was like, you know that? I said, but the reality is that we got like an hour until the day center closes.
Yeah.
I said, what is our plan? What do you want to happen? And I said, would you like me to call MCAT? Because consent, sovereignty. I don't do it. If there's an emergency, then obviously, yes, we engage. But this is an individual who's having a moment, and they have sovereign choice. So I gave it to them. I didn't give it conscious clear. I didn't give it to them. I reminded them. And they said no. I said, well, would you like me to take you to the hospital? Knowing that I had a meeting in an hour. That meeting didn't matter because I'm sitting next to somebody who just opened up about relapsing.
Right.
Just open up about trauma. And they don't have anybody else right now. And they chose us. So I chose them back, drove them to the hospital, checked them in, gave them a hug, told them I was proud of them. I love you. You got this. Because they wanted the help. They wanted to get back to what they were experiencing 2 days before. So it's emotional because these are real people. And we're very grateful for this opportunity because we've been trying to find ways to get people's stories out there like this, because it is emotional when you know, like, you develop relationships. They trust you to give all their trauma, all of themselves to you in this vulnerable state. And then your boundaries, right? We don't expect, I don't expect my team and I to hold it all. There's a mutual respect between our neighbor and our team. But so when they came in off character, I'm like, oh, okay. And then once I found out they relapsed, I was like, okay, this is making more sense. So you're doing all this trauma-informed care, all this stuff in the interim of witnessing that individual, but also meeting them right where they're at. And so it's important to speak. I'm not speaking names because of privacy. And I don't even like to give identifiable information. That's how important sovereignty is to me and us. Is that these, doesn't matter if their sexual preference, their orientation, their ethnicity. No, they're human beings, and that's all that matters to us. So I just wanted to speak that out into existence, but also relate to what you were saying about the autism and the correlations between those with neurodivergent experiences. I myself have served that population and community. I have for years seen lots of correlations And without being offensive, I'll put the disclaimer out there. I'm not trying to be offensive. I truly believe that we all have some neurodivergent aspect to our existence. I truly believe that as part of God's plan, his big plan of this reunification to remembering that we are all 99% related. Because what I have witnessed in people on the spectrum, diagnosed, undiagnosed, is that their consciousness is so free to just be. There's no limitation. Story, verbally spoken, not spoken, like their consciousness is just free to explore all that exists, which is a lot, by the way. And so I truly believe unlocking and unlimiting our ability to understand consciousness is part of God's big plan when we talk about unconditional love and the truth to what Jesus came to walk this earth to offer us. So I wanted to relate and bring that in too, because for me that is, I was doing that right up, literally 3 families and starting a day program last year. It just got to be too much for me between all my clients and their own individuality, but then also being a student to their teaching while introducing myself to all of these hundreds of individuals that we were serving and still serve, and each one having their own walk of life and their own trauma and their own depth to consciousness. So I don't do that anymore. I just couldn't. The capacity level was not there for it. But I do. I think it plays a big part in the oneness of us being able to open and expand and evolve through these limited stories or narratives that we were taught or given. So,
well, I will say this. I have some very specific goals in why I started this podcast. One of them is I do think that autistic people are sort of an evolution. They offer very specific gifts, varied gifts, but significant to society. And one of the goals of this podcast is to show people that autism is actually very deeply ingrained and frequent in all cultures around the world. I think sometimes we hide things or we don't accept things. And right now there's a lot going on with autism in particular that has raised all my spidey senses. And so I'm like, this is just my little part in educating people, informing people, but mostly to show them like, autism is not this scary thing. Neurodivergence is not this scary thing. And actually, it's been around for a long time. And most likely, you have someone in your family or in your community or at your church or maybe at your work that is part of this community. Maybe you're not aware of it. It is deeply ingrained in our society. This is not something that you can root out. And if you try to root it out, then we go down a very dark road, which we've been down before, which is eugenics. And that is the scary road that nobody wants to go down again. So this is sort of my little part in helping society along, trying to encourage people to keep an open mind, and really showing people we need to go forward. Everything that is in the past must stay in the past because it didn't serve us. We don't need to go back to institutionalization. We don't need to be removing the unhoused community. There are more humane ways that we can be neighbors or be brothers and sisters to one another in humanity that are financially responsible for the community, but just very responsible in like the human sense, and speaking about removing part of the unhoused community, I have kind of been following what's been going on at, is it Fountain Square Park, where they just recently removed a big unhoused community?
Well, they haven't yet.
Have they not?
This is going to the systems that are not trusted. They've said many things publicly,
Yeah.
and some things not public. And because the story is everywhere, we still have a community that is expecting a camp to be cleared, at least a portion of a community, that's what they're demanding, according to some comments in a public meeting. And another part of that community would like to help these people truly, and have heard of a new initiative in Indy to house those who are on the streets living day by day, and who have been promised that opportunity, but somehow it's not going to apply to this camp.
Okay.
Why wouldn't it? This makes perfect sense. If the community is there supporting that, why wouldn't we? Well, because they're still in a pilot,
Okay.
and without a plan that we're aware of. And so there's a lot of misinformation that creates this distrust. So yeah, they're still there.
Well, so the reason I bring that up is because I'm kind of a problem solver. I've always been more of a doer. And I think right now is the time to encourage people to do the thing, because we're stronger together. So when we start to have these conversations, and when we start to loop our efforts together, and there are many organizations around Indianapolis, probably also in the state of Indiana, that if given certain resources, you guys probably could come up with a solution like overnight, right?
I'll look directly into the camera and say
Yes.
this. To your point, we have actually provided some of those solutions, and it has been given, it has been received, and nothing beyond that.
So without going too far into it, if you're not comfortable with that, what was the hang up for said people that could have furthered this recommendation?
I don't know that we actually know the hang up. It was just kind of one of those dropped balls that never got feedback.
Yeah, and we asked directly for feedback as to why something that we were asked to submit was not followed up with. We didn't hear back from a committee considering the plan. And we asked directly about that, and we were ghosted.
How long ago was that?
Last
year.
August.
So it's been a year ago.
Right.
Interesting.
Because if you follow local governmental budgets, this is usually about the time where they would start doing the budget releases or hearings. And so we got it in technically before last budget last year.
Well, I'm never really sure how many people are watching, but if you were to speak to people in a way to get them to try and contribute resources, time, or whatever to this agenda, what would you recommend that they do, and that they could do now to try and help this along?
Well, for one, like you, we believe all of us have the answers. There's this one way of talking about collective consciousness. And that has been upgraded and upgraded and upgraded to where we've been able to look at key issues, patriarchy within religious systems that we can recognize, all the abuses, the misogyny. These are opportunities that we've collectively come to awareness that we can do it differently. And now what we're witnessing is unified insight, where we all together for ourselves find our truth. And so the most important thing we can say to any individual is find that for you. Just doing something because it's an opportunity. If it's not in alignment with you, that's not the right path for you. So there are many opportunities. Allies for Humanity provides some opportunities. The most important thing is that we connect with the individual coming into our space and find out what lights you up. And so it's really the answer is something that they will all find for themselves. For me, it's providing music and good vibes. That's my light me up. Last night we were doing it under a bridge in Indianapolis, just setting up a pop-up and providing good vibes for people passing through. We were there from 9:30 until about 2 in the morning, and that fuels me. And I do that in these spaces, traveling the country and providing opportunities for our unhoused neighbors to have the opportunity to experience music in ways that they likely haven't for a long, long time as community. And that's what lights me up. I have other abilities, and I find myself getting involved in certain ways in the organization and have to choose again, because I am a conscious individual. And if I'm just going back in to do something because it needs to be done or wear all the hats and it's not bringing me joy, it doesn't mean that there isn't a contribution for doing that, but how is it serving me? How is it fueling me? How is it lifting me up? Because one of the biggest things we see in these grassroots organizations specifically, because there isn't the support, because the city and the systems that are deciding those things are gatekeeping and not allowing the support to come in, that there's burnout. And if we're showing up burnt out, if we're not showing up filled up, then what are we doing for the people that we think we're serving? We're propagating trauma potentially. So it's very important, and KT's spoken to it already. We have support first in knowing our boundaries, knowing when we need to say something, communicate, and choose again, and or redirect ourselves. But we can do that for each other, like KT was mentioning in the day program, where there's a team of people that are in tune and recognizing the ways that they can bring support. But we don't have specific roles that we plug people into.
So I want to dig a little deeper. I know there are other people out there that are feeling this sense of wanting to give back. And if this is something that speaks to them, how would they get a hold of you guys? How can they get involved to help your effort and still, follow whatever's speaking to them so they're not getting burnt out? But I imagine you guys could use some help with your efforts too.
Yes. We do a lot of what we call bridging. And so TK offered one perspective, and this may be a bridge for somebody to say, okay, yeah, I hear what TK had to say, and that sounds beautiful and great, and like I can resonate, or I can understand that. But some people, what we're learning through this support raising that we're doing is like, apparently some people, their humans are at levels of understanding where they just need to be asked or like given more specifics. And so that's what we would call like a bridge.
Okay.
It's like the bridge is there for you. We're not gonna make you go across it if you don't want to go across it, but it's there for support if it's for you. And so the day program does need volunteers. We do need support. Unfortunately, we are at the reality, like many small grassroots organizations in today's climate, of can we keep the doors open?
Right.
And that's not a foreign concept that we haven't even been informing our neighbors about.
Sure.
Because they like it. Some of them love it. Some of them know that it's that peaceful that they don't want it to go away.
Right.
And so not to trauma inflict, because that's far from what we're doing, but just to have real life conversations like, hey bro, like You want to help mop the floor at the end of the day? You want to help clean up? Like, it's just us. Like, we've got to find a way to make this work. And so that happened yesterday. One of our neighbors hung out to help mop the floor at the end of the day. Because they understand what we're here to offer and to do through Allies for Humanity. And they just don't want that to go away. And I truly don't. I know he spoke to his heart, and his joy is the music. And we do co-create in that world. But I really get joy out of witnessing our neighbors be able to say, thank you for that hour and a half space. I got a new place to go to now. Like, life is shifting. That's what I'm here to be doing right now. And so if from the kitchen to the cleaning to the, we just need some more eyes and ears to be like that space of like, you don't gotta have the trauma-informed care. We will teach. We can teach. Student teacher. It's a fluid thing.
Right.
And our neighbors are great teachers. All you gotta do is be able to listen. You don't.
So for those people, because, some people might be afraid, or like you said, maybe they feel like, well, I don't have the background, I'm not quite sure what I have to offer. But just, what would you say to these type of people, just to get them to walk in the door, just to try and say, hey, just show up, be yourself, be your most authentic self, and we will help guide you.
Yep.
What would you say to these type of people?
That's exactly what happened on Wednesday.
Okay.
I met someone a few weeks ago, and they were finally able to come in, and I honestly thought we were just going to do a tour, just going to show the day program in action, because we normally do our tours during day program hours so people can see it in action.
Sure.
And I thought they were just coming to check it out. No, they stayed for like 3 hours. They put 3 hours of volunteer time on paper, and they were just intrigued. They followed me around, just wanted to see everything in action. And I got an email this morning from that same person, was like, hey, it's going to be another week until I can get my kids' work schedule figured out, but I'm coming back. And all they did was sit with me at the front desk. And then they were curious enough and comfortable enough that then they started following me around when I have to go to the clothing closet or go to the kitchen for something. They didn't do much interaction directly with our neighbors, which is totally fine. Some people aren't that comfortable. Other people come in and they're like sitting at the table playing games or just talking to people. So I think, to your point, yes, just come check it out. And then, in the tour of it is me trying to figure out like, where is your comfortable level? What brings you joy? Like, what things do you have questions about? And then we just naturally flow into, okay, why don't you try this, or why don't you try that? So it's a fluid solution that we co-create and find together. It's like TK said, it's not, but to your point, it's definitely not a box.
Well, so I'll be very specific about this, because sometimes, as we know, people kind of need a guiding hand. So for those people that maybe their strong suit is cooking, like maybe they only have 30 minutes to offer, but if they had that skill, and I think you make sandwiches, right? Is there more than sandwiches?
So for our food, in the morning we do light breakfast, which is usually with self-serve or cereal items, and then lunch is a hot entree that is provided by Second Helpings.
Okay.
So food-wise, we don't have a lot of cooking per se. It's a matter of monitoring the dish in the oven, or switching out breakfast to the lunch preparation. But yeah,
so you see where I'm going with this, though, right? Like, now you can speak into the camera for those that are interested and say, right, of the different skill sets that we need, like, these are the things that we need. Like, we need people to come to sit with people, to play games, to, maybe sit with you, help reheat things. But certainly you need money, because we all need money. So let's talk about that. Like, maybe these people that can't offer their time to the organization but want to help, what are the ways that they could help in ways like that?
Yeah, that's a great segue, a bridge. I'll speak to that, because the day-to-day operations of the day program, the team and I had not received compensation for several months now. A healthy operation for the team and I to be compensated for the tender care that we're offering, plus operational costs of the supplemental breakfast, the programs, all the other things. It's $8 to $10 grand a month.
Okay.
And so we had a temporary funding earlier in the year. That shifted and that has ended. At the moment, we are actively applying for grants, but we haven't had any success with that yet. And I don't know that it's because we have people looking over the grant. So it's not like we're new at this grant world because we have veterans in that field that are supporting and looking it over for us. I hate to think this, but you said it earlier. It's like what we're offering is so futuristic at times that it's difficult, I think, for some people to really understand it. And that's why we always encourage people to come to the day program, to see it in action, to feel it. People literally, like, we pray over our door threshold. We pray over the hallway. And prayer looks different for every single one of us. I was there with Sage and Palo Santo a few weeks ago going through the whole space. So prayer looks different for all of us. But we do it all the time. So even from the moment people walk through the door. And so that's something else. We need prayer warriors. We need people and desire people to, however they're called to support this mission, because it's not just for us. It is literally for all of us.
Well, the reason I ask is because I run nonprofits. And right now, I have been the sole source of income for my nonprofits. So I understand how this sort of thing works. I understand, all the thought that goes into forming a thing, to building it up, to educating other people, reaching out and doing community outreach. And often it seems like people are nervous. They don't want to step on people's toes. They're not quite sure how to give back. So that's why I was giving you the space to say, hey, for those people that are curious, that this seems interesting to them, that maybe they've not found any other organization that maybe they feel their skills will meet that need, how could these people get a hold of you?
So our website, TK has put a lot of time and love and energy into. It's alliesforhumanity.org.
Okay.
There is every kind of question answered on there, from our mission and vision to our timeline of the last 3 years of what we've done, to advocacy, testimonies, and work. But then there's a big section of support engagement. And there is a way to donate directly through our website. And there's even sections in there that tells you your dollar amount, what it's going towards or what it's providing on a monthly basis. And so,
people could choose an option.
Yeah, or you could just put a dollar amount in there if you don't feel called to, specifically buying hygiene or supporting hygiene packs or, and I, do we have the right partner listed on the website yet?
The right partner?
Yeah, Granddad.
Yes. Oh, the right. WRIGHT.
Okay. So.
Yes, it is on there.
So, this is a segue to give honor and legacy to my grandparents.
Okay.
And for me, this is another layer of how or why I do the work. And so, my grandfather, TK, and I were his primary care provider over the last year and a half or so. He passed away a few months ago. But,
I'm sorry to hear that.
A way that we have taken him and my grandmother's legacy forward of really serving humans. That's what I grew up witnessing through them, unconditionally. Yes, they were of the church, not that church, but
Sure. Of a church.
A church. And they did a lot of work through that, all the way up until they both became physically incapable of being able to serve in that way. But even up to the last little bit of my grandfather's life, he was still serving. So we decided to create partnership levels if someone is called to a bigger donation, and the right, because that's his middle name.
Okay.
And he would always tell you, I'm always right, and tell you his whole name. So it was like his little thing that he did. And it was something that TK and I felt very called to do after he had passed. And so there was even, partnership or levels if someone's called to that bigger, but that is the deeper humanness to that specifically is for TK and I to carry on the legacy of my grandparents. And so that's even on the website too.
So this is a multi-generational project.
Yes. Physically and spiritually.
And literally for all of us. Everything we are experiencing now is because of who came before us.
Yeah.
Everyone. And it's incredible to be a part of that wholeness and honor it. And Katie's very connected to that past and or presence, depending on your level of consciousness, your ability to believe in something you can't see. So
Well, I can relate to that, and that's the reason why I'm kind of digging a little deeper into this, is because part of my origin story with a lot of the things I'm doing is because I had a grandfather that was like that. So my grandfather, he had this big garden, and every summer, we'd take whatever we needed from it, and then every day or every week, he'd go into town, and he would just take whatever he had, and he'd take it to the elderly in town. He never really told anybody he was doing it, but I would go with him. Not all the time, when I could. And he just did stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because he thought that it was important.
Yeah.
And, he was probably one of the major influences in my life that said things like, everybody has something to teach you. It doesn't matter what their education level, everybody is a human. Everybody is worth helping. It's important, I think, when you have that experience and when you had a teacher in whatever way that comes, if they've given you that gift and shown you what that looks like if you can find a way to lead in whatever way, like you said, that it speaks to you, but just kind of carry on that legacy of giving, I do feel like it is a ripple, and all those tiny ripples, they lead to a tidal wave.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. If anybody hearing this can tune into that, regardless of any connection to any other system, knowing what you can do, how you can show up, and it's a daily, it's just a part of who you are. And I loved how you recognized and said earlier on that this work was something you were doing before you even realized you were doing it. And that's the truth of all of us. We're already doing it. And just becoming conscious of it is the key. Realizing, this is smiling at somebody in the line at the grocery store instead of looking away, or there's so many, and that can't be a conscious thing, because then it's not authentic potentially. And so in all the ways that we see a way, it can be helpful, but truly finding our own way is the most helpful. And that's just simply by accepting who we are today and trusting that we will continue to evolve.
I've done a couple things recently, just kind of going along that type of path, where I very much do not like the hatred that I'm seeing. And so every opportunity that I have that I feel like is within my power to give back, even if it comes up suddenly, I try and do it. So two things that I did recently is there was a man that was stranded alongside the road, and it didn't look like anybody was stopping, so I stopped. and all I had was an apple and some water in my car. And by the way, he only spoke Spanish. My Spanish is not great. Like, I speak French, but my Spanish is not great. So, but I used the tools that I had available to me. So I got in there, I got Google Translate, I tried to figure out a way that I could help him. We were using Google Translate to talk back and forth. He was grateful. I stuck around and waited until he got help. There was another situation that I just happened to see this guy that was in the median, and I was like, what I have in my car? He didn't ask. I just kind of figured. I was like, it's hot. Like, if I have something's better than nothing. So I just pulled in someone's driveway, turned the blinkers on, kind of ran over to the stop, and then waited, obviously, because he's in the median, and just ran across real fast, gave him a bag. I think I had like a couple bags of chips and a juice pouch from my kids. But I was like, he could use this. Maybe it's not high on the list of the things that like he would prefer, right? Because who knows? And nobody knows anybody's dietary needs. But I just figured, this is what I have. If he can't use it, he'll probably pass it on to someone else. So I think in just little ways like that we just see something. And I think all of us have that inclination to act, but we sort of tamp it down. Or maybe we let fear control us. I'm not saying do that if you think that it's unsafe. But if it seems like it'll be safe and you think that it'll be helpful, I think if more people do these types of things, even if they seem minuscule, you never know what that ripple may be. Like, you never know how, that small action may affect that person's day.
Absolutely. It makes a difference. We talk about those moments as angels coming into our lives, that we are each other's angels. And I've experienced many angels in my travels throughout the world. And it was immensely helpful and on the daily. And that's that opportunity I mentioned earlier, the connection that these individuals who are living on the streets have to that. And it's the spectrum of it. So that opportunity for them to recognize the help that you provided, that's they see that, they feel it, and it's immensely helpful. And we get to just keep showing up that way for each other.
And can I offer a bridge for evolvement for all of us? Yeah. Because getting back to that sovereignty part, and yes, the natural may be to go and do, giving them an option to, because like you said, we don't know people's dietary. Yeah. And unfortunately, scarcity mindset is real. Yeah. And I've seen people literally come to the day program and eat without telling me they have an allergy, without telling me they have a sensitivity. And all it was just something that I needed to know, so that way I could go and find an alternative or have on stock something alternative to have next time. And so I think getting back to some of our earlier conversations when we talked about sovereignty and choice, is that it's natural for some people and fear for others, but a level of uncomfortable that they may be at their point in life to step into to try to continue to heal or work through on their own. But I think just giving that extra conscious thought to, hey, I have this, all I have, would you like it? I find myself, even when we are in the road or, in the car passing by people, I do that. And it's through being the student teacher of the neighbors to be able to witness one just eating to eat, because that's what unfortunately they gotta do or they're used to doing. I'm like, no, not here. Like, you have an allergy to that. I'd rather you tell me you have an allergy to something and not eat it, and me not have to get your EpiPen or call an ambulance because you can't breathe. So I think if we can offer a bridge to the listeners or the viewers to just, we're not about levels, so don't think of it in that perspective, but a conscious, sovereign choice to what you have to offer. and giving that person the opportunity, because those little, like you said, those small little opportunities create bigger comfort within that individual to come to the day program or to go somewhere and say, hey, this is really what I'm needing, or this is what I really would like, because they know their selves or their body or their stomach. And so I just wanted to drop that in there for anybody who may be.
I guess that's a good point, though, actually, because, let's say, because personally for me, this is just my observation. I'm in Indy a little bit more than I was before. Just in the amount of time that I'm here more frequently, I've seen more unhoused people. I've seen more people in the street, and it is a very diverse group of people. If people wanted to just say, have some things in their car that everybody could use, that people wouldn't be offended by the offer. Like, what would you recommend that people maybe just have, like, some go bags, if you will, like, here's a few things to put in here, like, of the types of things that you get requests for, what would those things be?
That's a great question. I think having a mix of what most would consider like snack items, bottled water is always the best choice. Having a protein of some sort, and I say protein because nuts and allergies, but if it's an individual wrapped snack item, then if they have the allergy, it's not a contamination. But they even have like those tuna packs that you can buy individually. That's a great protein that for a meal alternative some tend to go to. Usually like a cracker of some sort, with or without
something with shelf life.
Yeah, even though it will most likely go soon.
Yes,
but if those are items that they can store and they're not too heavy, because you got to think everything they have they're usually carrying or moving with, so you don't want it to be too heavy.
Something that they can easily put in their pocket or something like that.
Yeah, because if they're most of our neighbors know how to get food. It's not necessarily a food situation, but in the interim, if they have snackable items like that while they're moving around and getting entree food at different locations, that's something like, if they're not able to get out to go get a meal somewhere, well, at least they have something to put in their stomach. So those are just some key things. Not too heavy, shelf life, separate for possible allergies, and water. I can't stress the water enough. And I could go on a whole tangent about that. Not tangent. But
go ahead, tangent away. And the reason I'm asking you these types of things is because I think, sometimes it holds people back from helping, because it's that indecision, right? Where they're like, I kind of want to help, but I don't know what to do. And then maybe they just get too in their mind about it. And they're like, they either, maybe, I don't want to say like actively choose not to, but it just overwhelms them and then they do nothing.
Yeah. That's a human experience.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
But so even if you for these people that are like, I don't know what to do, you're saying like, you can't go wrong with water. Like if you have a 12 pack or a 24 pack of bottled water in your car, and as you see people that are unhoused and maybe you're at a traffic stop, like if what you have is water is great.
Correct. And I'm gonna break it scientifically down for us all. Because I am a firm believer that mental health is not as big as we talk about it or make it be. And I say that because, and confidently, and if I had a scientist or a doctor sitting next to me, then they'd be able to explain it all. The body, when it naturally loses water and it gets dehydrated, the functionality of the human decreases with such a little, like, I think it's 5 to 7%. It starts to deteriorate, like, meaning that it's not functioning properly as if you were fully hydrated. And then at like 22%, I think, this is why I need a science doctor or somebody to fact check me. Somebody out there can do it.
Okay.
But it's something so little to like 15 to 22% or something like that. The body's not functioning. So you take somebody who's on the street, who's dehydrated, who even at like a low 5% is starting to decrease their normal cognitive function. Put them through the stress and the trauma of being on our streets. And in Indianapolis right now, it's a little wild. Okay,
Well, let's talk about that.
I mean, we can talk about it, but the bigger point that I want to make is the fact that mental health is not necessarily the bigger issue. The biggest issue that we have for our unhoused community is that they don't have safe space. Once they get dehydrated and their functioning cognitive level starts to decrease, they're humans not humaning.
I got you.
So, and then they face trauma, and then they face some abuse. Like, I know there are camps out there that make their people pay to be able to stay safe on their camp.
You're kidding.
There's camps that traffic the women and men to do things so they can stay safe on their camp. These are all things that happen on a regular basis to our people out there. So let's get back to the science. They're dehydrated. They're facing all of that potential trauma. That's real. It's not perceived trauma or perceived fear. It's real. And then they don't have safe spaces to go to, public safe spaces. It's just a loop after a loop after a loop. And the more that they get dehydrated without that water, the less cognitive functionality that they're humans having. That is enough to drive anybody to lose their mind. So it's not this big mental health issue. When we start tackling housing and get people hydrated, because if we give them pharmaceuticals on top of those things still being a part of their everyday experience, we're not really helping them.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways that the systems that are in place that say they're helping are really harming and re-traumatizing. And one that I come from, and I was a corrections officer for a couple of years and got to see what system exists there in terms of help. And really, it's a culture that's created. It's officers and inmates. And in that system, number one, don't snitch. And number two, you gotta have somebody's back. So there was a divide and created and a culture created that when they're released from, that's the culture mirrored on the streets. And it's a culture of fear and control. And so these systems that exist that are supposedly helping are actually harming. And it's something to definitely be aware of. And,
I mean, last year I had a partner who we went as far as even bringing in alkaline water, because that's how important I believe water is to our unhoused neighbors. Is that if we can't address these common human first line situations, we aren't going to be able to truly get out of these cycles. And that's to each one of their own, because each one of them has their own cycles and each one of them has had their own experience through abuse and things. Most of our people on the streets have come from abuse as child.
70% of individuals experiencing homelessness come from the foster system.
I read that.
That's known. That's known data.
And they, now I read a lot. I try and stay as informed as I can, but I can't remember exactly where I read this. But I think nationally, not just in Indiana, with some of the reductions in different services, I believe I read recently that the foster population was going to be very much affected, and more. You know, obviously that is already a big problem, but if we're already talking 70%, and then some of these programs for these kids that are aging out of the system, that number is going to go up. And then we're talking about there's physical, sexual, psychological abuse and all of this. You know, going back to the indigenous part, you know, always in my family was very much embraced that, water is life. You have to take care of the earth takes care of you, everything is cyclical. I think that it seems all of it truly is connected. And if these religious bodies, any denomination, if they want to really be helpful, maybe they should coordinate more with these type of organizations, because if the objective is to help, right? And churches do have resources. If there could be a consolidated effort across Indianapolis, for example, and resources could be pooled to maybe create an actual safe space for people to have access to clean water, not just for consumption, but also to bathe, be able to sleep. I think you're onto something. If all of us could somehow find a way, which, as we know, there are powers that be that kind of restrict this, but like I said, problem solver. So if we could go outside of that and say, right, okay, well, if the governor is saying there's not any money, but we know there's this thing that we could do, I think it makes good sense for all of these churches, regardless of denomination, to reach out to one another and be like, listen, clearly there is this issue that we have with the unhoused community. And if our objective under God, whatever that looks like, is to help and to show love, this is a problem we can tackle.
Yeah, and some of that is happening already.
Yeah. Good.
And so there is a group of local churches that are coming together. They are trying to find ways that they haven't maybe explored in the past of really being the hands and feet of Jesus, as church people like to say.
Yeah.
And where was that church that I just sent you the article about? The church, it's not in Indiana. It's in a different state, but they're literally tearing down the walls of their church and building affordable housing on their church property. And so those radical actions are huge energetic ripples in the shifting and the changing of this situation for our community members. We don't have anybody locally doing that just yet, but it is a beautiful example for all of us.
I'll tell you, like I said, I'm very much a doer, and you never know who I may know, or you never know who may be watching the podcast. And I think that's the importance of getting these messages out there. So definitely send me that article, and we will attach that to the notes. I try and do that so that people kind of have a reference point of the many things that we talk about. But yeah, things like that, it sparks thought, it sparks innovation. And sometimes it's as easy as that is, hey, like now we have an example. Like now somebody else did it. So it's not so foreign.
Right. And that's the beauty of the day program. The day program can be anywhere and everywhere. It's not a concept that we are like, it's our baby, like it's our thing. We would love for day programs to be all across our state, our city. We're exploring even partnerships with organizations like the YMCA, people who have community centers already active, or churches that may not be able to support their building structure, but looking for an alternative way to show up for the community. And so all of those are possibilities. And Indiana, unfortunately, is a state that likes to see it done before we make a commitment to it. I think that is absolutely BS. I'll just call it what it is. I cannot sit here or anywhere in this city or this state knowing that there are people dying on our streets and we want to see something successful. No, it's time to jump off the damn cliff and try something, because if it doesn't work, at least we can say we tried. But what happens every week or so is that I get an email with someone else passing. Someone else that has died on our street. If it's for an overdose or not, that should not matter. It's some human being that has died on our street.
In states of emergency, we see communities come together and solve the problem. And that's where we're at. We have a disaster on our hands. And as you have mentioned, there is more opportunity for us to witness what's coming. We see it in rising eviction rates.
There you go. Thank you for that.
And it's one of the very important things we can do for ourselves, especially if we're in a position where we're currently housed, is let go of our judgment of what it means to be unhoused. Because the more of us that get there with that judgment, it's a rude awakening. And we can have a much easier opportunity letting go of that for ourselves. And we witness that with people weeks on the streets, realizing, oh my goodness, I really judge these people unfairly, unjustly.
Well, I think the stats are definitely out there, and the stats are rising. I am one of those people. I've had various experiences, but I know for a fact that most Americans are just a paycheck away from being on the street. That is a fact. Those are statistics. That is not hearsay. And the gap is widening between rich and poor. You're right, eviction rates are rising. I would imagine you're not only seeing single men and single women, but I would imagine you're also seeing families with young children at this point.
I just got updated from this, and thank you for bringing that back, because in the state of Indiana, let's just stay there. The state of Indiana, there are going to be and are more women with children getting evicted from their homes and sent into homelessness. And that gets to the systematic policy side of Allies for Humanity for us. It gets to the root of these systems that do not protect the people. We do not have laws that protect renters that actually sustain. We have resources after an eviction happens, but the trauma happens when you get evicted from your home and you're put into that fight or flight of, what am I doing?
Well, and there's a really big issue right now, and I think it's worth talking about. I'm glad that you mentioned, I was not aware that there are places where unhoused people are, where they're having to do things to get housing. And so we
And
already...
that's a tent. That's what we're talking about, camp.
We've seen recently, there's an uptick. And, I'm sure it was always around. But now things are coming to light more. People being put in precarious situations, children being put in precarious situations. And so now we know that there are going to be more children. The influx is going to raise, and we're going to have more kids put in precarious situations. So yes, you are right. We are in a very terrible state right now, and we need to figure it out. So we're not in this place anymore where we can turn a blind eye, because too many people are suffering. We are at a pivotal point in American history. We do not have the luxury to remain silent. Programs are disappearing every day. We hope that this podcast raises awareness and sparks a sense of advocacy in you. We all can make a difference. The important thing is to start. See you next time.